So you once told me that there is distinction between people are not naturally good, people are inherently good.
Right.
Which means that goodness should be trained.
Right.
And that worries me when we will bring out, or our big ambition is to bring out the Dharma into the world. All those people that are not trained in goodness, all those Vlaams Belang kiezers in Flanders, all those Donald Trump choosers, all those Chinese, Russian people who live in a world of separate self, all separate pieces, with a puzzle, because the regime says there is a puzzle, and they have to believe it, because the regime imposes the puzzle. And that really keeps me going on.
Totally. Right, right. So Lord W refers to, that's his, by the way, secret name, right? Right? Lord W refers to a very, very important distinction, which I was thinking about talking about tomorrow, but I won't anymore, right? But it's a great distinction, right, which we've spent a lot of time on, which is the question, are people naturally good or not? Right? And we did a couple of One Mountains on this, and it's a very, very important, and you say it exactly right, brother, right? People are not naturally good. Right? And the belief that people are naturally good is one of the most dangerous beliefs in the world. Because if you believe that people are naturally good, then there's no reason to train goodness. There's just no reason. Why would you bother training goodness? And it's always the fault of some other force, right? Society did it, right? There's always a group of people who did it. You externalize, right? Evil or brokenness, and you never actually have to do the work of transformation. So people are not naturally good. There's not a naturally good person in the entire world, any place, right? 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 And at the same time, Salam Elohim, right? At the same time, right? People are naturally good, right? Inherently good, right? They're not naturally good. Thank you. It's been a long night, right? I appreciate that, right? But people are inherently good. It means there's an inherent goodness in every human being, but that human being, that inherent goodness needs to train. So, for example, right, Matti brought me these beautiful weights, which I can't figure out how to use yet, right? But they're fantastic, right? And you want to train your weights, right? You want to train your weights because you want to train. So you have a body, but you want to train, right? And you can't say, well, I'm naturally trained. It's a strange idea, right? I'm naturally trained, right? No, you have to train, right? So interiors and exteriors are resonant, all the way up and all the way down. So I have to train goodness. So Lord W says, well, that's frightening because we got to train all these people, but actually that's also radically optimistic because everyone can be trained, right? And training doesn't mean Pavlovian training. It doesn't mean Skinner training. It means accessing, right, that goodness that actually lives in me. So I'm going to tell you a little story. Permission? Okay, what are you going to say, right? Right, you know, right. So it wasn't a fair question, right? Right, so I agree. So Putin came to visit Israel. It's a true story, right? Putin comes to visit Israel, and, right, he had a second grade teacher who had moved to Israel. And he wants to find that second grade teacher because he wants to thank her. And so he sends word out, and a couple of friends of mine were involved in this word. That's how I know the story. And he finds that second grade teacher, and he buys her an apartment. Now, he didn't do that for a public accolade. Right? He didn't do it, right, he did it because there was this goodness in him. Right? Now, this dude who's got goodness in him is doing really bad shit in the world. Right? So that's, I get that. Right? But the point is, Putin doesn't believe that there's inherent value in the world. In other words, Putin and his circle have extensively read the postmodern literature, right? And Elena, right, Maslova, right, who's a brilliant Russian artist who kind of joined the center about a year ago, who edited the talks we gave about the Ukraine into a very, very beautiful book where she added her own commentary as a Russian intellectual, right, points out, and as we pointed it out, but she documented it, right, that actually Putin is actually reading in his circle extensively, right, the postmodern literature, And they actually believe it, right? As does much of the rest of the world, as does Mr. Obama. Although they're very different people and they've come to different conclusions. So Putin doesn't actually believe that there's actually an intrinsic quality of the good, that there's intrinsic value. He actually believes the Foucault move, that the entire thing is a power game, and that anyone who trots out a value is actually making a power move, right? And it's a value which is really just a power move. But imagine, I'm not talking about Vladimir Putin particularly, right? But I'm talking about, right, imagine if the leadership of Russia, think Boris Kasparov as a beautiful leader of Russia, right? If the leadership of Russia actually, and the leadership of China, the leadership of the United States, if we all actually lived together in the field of value. And then, and this is what our topic actually for tomorrow, even if we argued about what values were, we were in the field of value together. We were in the Tao. We experienced ourselves as being in the Tao. So therefore, an argument about value didn't become an identity issue. It became, oh, let's work out this value issue. But that's not what it is now. Right now, the assumption is there's no field of value. It doesn't exist. There's no Tao. Right? And therefore, all value is but a construction and subject to, right, power games. So she, right, he doesn't believe there's any value. He trots out Confucius. But he thinks that's bullshit. He thinks it's a straight power game, right? And, and it's the Chinese, Belt and Road, right, kind of, initiative all over the world, and let's break American hegemony over currency, right, and the Bretton Woods, agreement, et cetera. But because they actually believe, paradoxically, with President Obama, that there's no value, and all Trump is a naked, horrific disclosure of the lack of value. And it's what's actually frightening about Trump, but weirdly, right, this kind of animal magnetism that draws people to him, is he just says it. And he just says, right, it's just a fucking power game, right, and I'm going to fucking win at it, right? I mean, it's weirdly attractive to people because what they sense is, wrongly, but what they sense is, well, at least he's being honest. Right? They say, oh, there's some authenticity here. This guy's actually straight. And when Trump would do press conferences, he was the one president in the entire world who would go off script. He'd just fucking start talking, right? Right? And actually, in the United States, people found that like relieving. Oh, wow, I'm actually feeling him. But of course, it was a confused feeling of authenticity. It was completely misplaced because actually, right, he actually degrades, right, in the way he holds reality. I remember I mentioned at Terry Nelson's house, right, when he was doing the debate with Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton pointed out that he didn't pay painters, that these lower middle-class painters would come and work on Trump projects, and he would not pay them. And the reason he would not pay them is because he would actually cut costs, and they didn't have the money to sue him. And Hillary Clinton says, what the fuck? And he says, I'm a good businessman. And I'm like, oh, my God. And my heart went through my, right, and I said, oh, my God, this man's running for president. Right? So there's a nakedness in the ugliness that's strangely both repulsive to people and attractive. Right? That's right, because attraction and repulsion are these opposites joined at the hip. But Trump is a disclosure of that, but that's actually deep in the system. So the way to create the potential for the training is to actually realize there's something to train for, because good is actually real. That's what Plato was talking about. It's what Aristotle was talking about. It's what Comenius was talking about. It's what the interior sciences realized. But we first have to establish, right, brother, that the good is real. And we can't establish it by declaration. We actually have to show that to be true. And that, by the way, and this may be a good time for this is our last question, right, that's actually our topic tomorrow. And so our topic tomorrow is exactly that. Can we actually enter into that issue and actually engage goodness and feel and know that it's real? And can we actually engage the postmodern critique and actually walk through it to the other side, which is crazy exciting. Wow, right? There's a light topic to kind of finish off on.